Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
If I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I do see you there, JJ, with your comment at first. I'm not sure how long of a show this is going to be. Let me do my YouTuber stuff before we get started. And hola, Nathan? So, first of all, if I can find this. Yes, the typical YouTuber stuff. Please subscribe if you like this type of content. I know this is very Colorado specific, but I think there are things to take away, no matter where you're at. And people usually enjoy hearing me roast a politician. There'll be a little bit of a roasting here, because y'all know how much I love politicians. And, I'm still having Facebook problems, but they are trying to work with me. But for up until then, that didn't make any sense. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter, Karen Ann Harlos. My Twitter is hopping. It's hot. It's hot off the skittle. And lastly, if you do enjoy my content, I implore you to please consider becoming a patron. It means a lot to me, and it certainly helps to keep this show going. Okay, now that we did the intros, and I got a bit more sleep last night, as you can see. That was fun. Sleep is nice. But I did get home late from work again. I did just walk in the door, but I decided not to wear my business coat this time. I just threw it over here. I said I'm not going to be wearing a blazer again on my show. Yes, Dave Davis, and the prize goes to Dave Davis. But she did not appreciate me pointing that out. And JJ, I will confess, even nobody will be surprised at this, I got chided a bit by the committee chair for being indecorous. Not really, but kinda. I knew what I was doing in this one, though. And politicians that are looking, I'm not polite to people who are looking to steal our rights away or screw third parties over. I was as nice as I possibly could be. So, oh, and thank you, Forest Mommy. So Forest Mommy was there. She got creamed. Let's just put it this way. It's not over yet, because there's big money coming into Colorado trying to screw over third parties. But it died today. It died today, and Connor, I got something funny to tell you. It died today, and I'm going to celebrate its death, even though I know it will rear its ugly head again. But we are going to dissect Kirkmeyer's completely vacuous, disingenuous, shallow argument. And I will say, I will be able to prove here more why I think it's disingenuous. As I said, she's either ignorant or stupid, and neither of those are flattering. And I don't think she's ignorant. Well, maybe a little bit ignorant. We'll see. You decide for yourself. Yeah, all the third parties, everyone was there. The approval voting party was there. Even the Democrats joined with us. The Unity Party was there. The Green Party was there. The Forward Party was there. It was like, okay, time for the opposition. Then it was like, it was like piranhas on a corn dog. But Connor, I actually read from a Texas tweet. You'll hear it in part of my speech. I reworded it a little to fit the, what we were doing here. I almost read that tweet. If I had more time, I would have read that tweet from that douche in Texas who said that it was a dereliction of duty for the Republicans not to kick the Libertarians off the ballot. So, I have, and yes, thank you for all your help, Mike. Excuse me. I have the recording. But if you've ever done this kind of testimony thing, you don't know when they're going to call on you. I was doing it virtually, so I don't have a video. All I have is the audio. It's not great, but we're going to go over it. And I had to hit record on my phone while I'm talking into my laptop. So I hit record about a minute before I started talking. So I'm going to start playing that, but I'm going to try to move the playhead up to where I start talking. And it's 2 minutes long. So I'm trying to find where it starts.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Karen Ann Harlow.
I don't think... Is that audio coming through? I don't think that audio is coming through. So I'm going to play it through a different soundboard. So I see it's 40 seconds in. So let me put it through this system audio, but we're going to have to wait 40 seconds for it to start. So we'll just chat for a few minutes. You can hear some background noise. It'll start in 40 seconds. Yeah, it'll come through in a moment. I had to put it through the soundboard on my streaming program. Sorry about that. It was just awkward and I didn't have time to edit this. And thank you for the super chat, Mike. It should be starting any second now.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Karen Ann Harlow. I'm the National Secretary of the Libertarian Party, but I live in Castle Rock. This bill would turn Colorado, which has the best ballot access laws in the country, to just another rigged establishment state. Let's not pretend that we don't know at least part of the reasons for this bill. It's a feud within the Republican Party, and some members are shamelessly trying to use the state and force a law to settle their battles and extract revenge on the Libertarian Party because some think that they are owed our votes. And one of the sponsors lost a congressional bid by less than a percentage point and blames it on a Libertarian that earned 4%. There's a lot of rhetoric today about voter suppression and fairness, but the biggest way voters are suppressed is by artificially limiting their choices on the final ballot through ballot access laws. But they always perfume that hog in a veneer of fairness. As aptly stated, some politicians will say that elections are rigged in secret. Meanwhile, this bill is a shameless attempt to rig them in broad daylight. But here's what's even more practically. In minor parties, it's rare for there to be more than one person seeking any nomination, and that person is selected at our convention. It will be that exact same person that is now forced to go through petitioning only to have the same results on the general ballot. It's patently obvious that the sponsors have no idea how minor parties actually work, which I found out pretty starkly by talking to one of their aides. Did any of them bother to reach out to any of the minor parties? No. This is a way that will suppress minor party voices. I found it very telling that one of the speakers says this is the best way to preserve the two-party system. And I literally laughed. Yes, that's exactly what this is, to preserve the two-party system and stifle minority voices. And I actually heard someone say, less choice is freedom. And as a person on the autism spectrum, I truly appreciate the prior speaker. Thank you.
Okay. And I'll say what that last comment was about. Somebody had pointed out very truthfully that putting petitioning requirements in place, and you know, I'm not a big wokester, but this is just reality. If you're expecting the candidate to go out and do this, if they're not going to pay petitioners, Colorado is not flatland Florida. There are steps. There are hills. You're expecting someone to be going all over the place? Because Ms. Kirkmeyer was talking about how wonderful it was. She went door to door. And the speaker basically said, yeah, it must be nice. Imagine someone in a wheelchair having to do that. It must be nice. And then she said, or you're saying you've got to go out and you know, do all of this work just to even have the opportunity to be on the ballot, when doing that kind of thing can be literally terrifying to somebody on the autism spectrum. So that's why I had said to her, you know, I thanked her for her remarks, because they act like one size fits all. Now, you know, I only went into that a little bit, but I do think that person had a really legitimate point. I started thinking in my head, oh my God, can you imagine? I can't imagine. No. It privileges the people with money and who are retired. So basically what this bill was trying to do was, we have two ways to get on the general ballot right now. You can get nominated at a caucus, or you can petition. And I'm dealing with minor parties right now. I am not super hip on major party law. Mike Seebeck probably can correct me on some of this, because to be honest with you, I don't really care. I don't care what they have to do. They have enough money and they've rigged the system in their favor that I cry zero tears. But for minor parties, those are the two paths. And what Barbara, or Ms. Kirkmeyer, was saying was just how unfair it is, because these conventions or caucuses, you know, depending on the party, what they're called, are unrepresentative of Coloradans. And if you have to go out there and get signatures, then that's real democracy in action. Well, so let's first dismantle the first point. And she thought she was cute. I'm going to tell you where she thought she was cute, which was really hilarious to me. So say you had to go out and get 1,500 signatures. What about all the people you didn't get signatures from? Did that just disenfranchise all of them? So you're complaining about the low number that might come to a caucus, but unless you are surveying everyone in your district, you are already getting a lower number. It's not everybody. It's an excuse. You want to raise the bar to make it harder. Ms. Kirkmeyer was a 19-year Weld County commissioner, and apparently she couldn't get the Republican caucus nomination. So she had to go out and petition. And that is what this is really all about. And then she won the primary. I think there were 4 Republicans on the primary. I'm not sure who got the official nomination and who petitioned on. But as she told us, she petitioned on. And it's like, well, I didn't have to pay anybody, and I had 20-something volunteers. Well, that's really nice, Ms. Kirkmeyer, but you realize that minor parties are minor parties because they don't have those kinds of numbers. Do you want to know who went out and door hung for my city council race? Me and my husband, and there was some other volunteers that gave some time here and there, but one other volunteer that did the bulk of the work, because that's what our numbers support. It must be nice to be so privileged, and that's one reason why I said she has no idea how minor parties work. And yeah, it's kind of easy to gather 20 volunteers when you've got 19 years in public office behind you, and you can promise. I'm not even going to say she promised favors, but you can. And perhaps people think that you might, not saying anyone did. And you think that's the same thing as a struggling minor party? You think that's the same thing? I love how one of the commenters said that if they had to pay petitioners, that would be more than most libertarians spend on their whole campaign. But what's more transparent about this is A, it doesn't grant greater voices because it's still a very small subset. But what really shows the transparency of this is maybe for the major parties, because I don't really care, though I do think political parties are private institutions who should get to determine their nominees, but the fact is people can petition. But maybe in contested major party races, her argument might make sense. Where she goes, why should some small group, and I could tell you why, but I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. Why should some small group in a county or district convention or caucus get to choose one person and everyone else needs to petition on? Well, Ms. Kirkmeyer, who's allegedly a Republican, it's called freedom of association. And it's pretty sad if you were a 19-year Weld County commissioner and couldn't get your county, or whatever you guys call it, nomination. That says something. Your popularity problem is not the Libertarian Party's problem. However, with Libertarian Party candidates and the other minor parties, there isn't multiple people running for nominations. There's one. So that one person gets the nomination at our convention. So what she wants is the same person to have to go out and spend either tons of money, tons of time, where we're resource scarce party, to get on a primary all by themselves. It'll be one name, costing the rest of the state money to print that, and then they go on to the general ballot. How is that any different than if they were just nominated at convention? How is that any more democratic? And that's what I meant by she has no idea how minor parties work. It is rare that we have contested nominations. And when we do, we settle that ourselves. But every once in a while, they go to a primary. We had a primary, was it 2 years ago? But it's rare. So basically, when you look at it in the context of a minor party, all she is saying is, I want to put additional hurdles up in front of minor parties, but pretend that's not what I'm doing by saying some small group at a caucus nominated them and everyone should have a say, when the result will be exactly the same because it's the same one person. So you either were disingenuous when you said you were not ignorant on how minor parties work, or you were lying. Because your democracy argument that this would make it somehow so that more people would have a say is transparently false when it comes to minor parties. But guess what she said? I really got under her skin because in her closing statements, she addressed two of my remarks. She addressed the first one, where I said this is about her thinking that she lost because a libertarian got 4% of the vote, got 9,000 and something votes, and she lost by 2,000 votes, and was seriously ass mad about it. Her response to that was, well, we just didn't have enough votes. Well, why didn't you, Ms. Kirkmeyer? Because you think the Libertarians stole them. Why don't we just be honest here? Though in that particular race, the Libertarian candidate was very much a left Libertarian. I doubt very many Republicans were going to be voting for you that voted for him. But it's possible. There could have been Libertarians who didn't know the candidate and was voting party line. Was that a couple thousand people? I hope so, since I see what you pull when you don't win. I hope we cost you the election. But you don't know that, and you aren't owed votes. Maybe don't be anti-pot in Colorado. That might have helped you race a little bit. But her rebuttal to my comment that she doesn't know how minor parties work is she said that she went and read several sets of LPCO convention minutes. Well, that makes you an expert. Got me. And guess what? She parroted off of them. And I know how many people attended your conventions. Well, good for you. What does that have to do with the argument that your alleged point that if more people participated in the process, they would somehow have more choices and this would be more democracy? It meant nothing. We're a small party. Though I found it funny that you were complaining that you could barely get 2 people to show up to a county convention, but then you pointed out Libertarians got 120 at their last state convention. Sucks to be you. I guess we just care more. I don't know what to tell you. It's not a good look when you say barely anyone comes to your county caucus, yet you couldn't get their nomination. You got to be pretty bad. Anyway, no difference. So she wants to cost the Colorado taxpayers more money to have the exact same and no, it won't be. At best case scenario, it would be the exact same results. Meaning the same candidate that would have gotten elected nominated at convention would be on a primary with only their name on it and then go on to the general ballot. At best, that's what would happen. But we all know in reality that's not what happened. What will happen is that these potential candidates that would have went on to the general, and given voters another option, will not be able to overcome the hurdles. It's so funny about the way they cry about a level playing field when they're the ones who make the rules that level it to their advantage. All that would happen is that very few Libertarians would get on the general ballot. Not because they couldn't make it out of a primary, because they'd be the only ones in it. And all of this boo-hooing about, but unaffiliated voters don't get a voice in the primary. They could join a party. That's the whole point of being in a party. But on one point, I agree with her. Maybe. I have to think about whether I agree with her. Let me just say, on one point I don't find terribly objectionable, where she said when she was out getting, and you all can convince me, maybe there's something I haven't thought about with this. She said that when she went out, she had to get Republican signatures only and couldn't get unaffiliated voters to sign. I'm not so sure I would have a problem with petitioning to get on the ballot to have unaffiliated voters sign. was also funny where she goes, and there were 120 people average at the Colorado Libertarian Party conventions, and there's 40,000 libertarians in the state. Did you talk to any of them, Barbara, about how they felt about this? Were you white knighting for them that they somehow couldn't go to a convention? Tell me you know nothing about libertarians without telling me you know nothing about libertarians. I love my tribe. However, when we see new registrations in Colorado and we call them to invite them to party activities, guess what the most common response is? Thank you so much for what you're doing. Leave me alone. Because that's just libertarians. Believe me, any libertarian that wants to make it to convention can. That was a completely shallow argument that showed you do have zero idea or zero care for how minor parties work, yet are self-righteously acting like you care about all of the voices. No, you don't. Because none of that made any sense. And you never, ever called to speak with any of the leadership of the minor parties in Colorado you were looking to bend over because you were mad. If you were truly operating in good faith, you would have done that or had one of your aides do that. It was completely and utterly transparent. There is a reason why we have a two-tier system here between major and minor parties, because it recognizes the power disparity between them. But funny enough, the persons with all the power wanted to take away the little bit of leveling that is given to minor parties and called it fairness. How dare you? We see you. We know what you were trying to do. And I have to tell you, Lord help me, if that woman said conversation one more time, politician talk. I'm so happy this conversation got it started. And this is just the beginning of the conversation. And this conversation needs to continue. I really enjoyed hearing the conversation because I'm conversational. And that's how I mask how I'm trying to screw over all the minor parties in Colorado by calling it a conversation. Aren't I sweet? It was bad. It was truly, truly bad. And Reno Resitter asked if ranked choice voting came up. It indeed did. There were some members from Ranked Choice Coalition who spoke. Approval voting also came up. So, yeah, the whole hearing, all of the testimony was very, very good. So, everyone came at it from different angles, with different styles. Well, RCB came up, Reno, Mike, in the debate or testimony. But these politicians think that they could just paper over their awful deeds with words like conversation and democracy and fairness, when in fact, they're just trying to screw you over. And I thought it was super funny when There was like 3 people, I think, in favor. And the first guy who spoke got to speak for almost 3.5 minutes. Meanwhile, everyone else got cut off at 2. But anyway, and I think it was him that he got asked some questions, and he said the quiet part out loud. He said this bill is the best way to preserve our 2-party system. Yeah, that's exactly what it's designed to do. Too bad we have more than 2 parties here in Colorado, kind sir. Yeah, there's some big money coming into Colorado for us, Mommy. They're going to be trying to put this on the general ballot with big money behind it that is going to have deceptive advertising that people who just trying to live everyday lives who don't understand the struggles that minor parties go through are going to fall for the rhetoric and vote for it. Before I got involved, I didn't know all of this. I think most people would be appalled if they knew the games that are played to artificially limit their choices on the ballot. And they call that being in favor of democracy. It's just gross. So while I am sure this beast is coming back, I do celebrate that it died in a fire today. But here's a hint for you, Barbara. Keep minor parties out of it. You want to play your petty Game of Thrones games, keep it with the major parties. You guys who have all the power. Keep us out of it. We are not pawns in your little games. You know, if your bill said nothing about minor parties, there probably wouldn't have been anyone there except for perhaps the Democratic Party representative in opposition. You do realize that, right? Because we all saw what you were trying to do. Completely and absolutely infuriating. If this was really about her concern about what happened in her race and these contested primaries where one candidate gets an advantage because they're considered the real nominee and they're placed first on the ballot, as happens with the Republicans and Democrats, she wouldn't have tried to throw minor parties in. And that's where your reach was greater than your grasp, Senator. Keep that shit with the major parties. Because y'all screw each other. I don't care. You've been screwing us for years. You might as well do it to each other. Oh, and I'm sure, well, you've been doing that too, but I'm glad I got that off my shoulders. Thoroughly disingenuous. And of course, she had nothing to say about Wayne's point about how that would actually keep at least the Libertarian Party from having a presidential nominee. Funny how she didn't address that. Not our fault you wrote a shitty piece of legislation and don't know a damn thing about minor parties, or you would have known that. How do you write things with deadlines without even looking into how that would affect the people in your state? Utter irresponsibility. Shame on the 3 sponsors. And the reason why she's getting most of my ire when she's not the only sponsor is because she's the one who was speaking for it. And she's the one who got her ass kicked by Dan Ward. Who? Do you want to laugh? So Dan got 9,000 and something votes. He didn't spend any money. I wonder how much she spent per vote. He campaigned, but he didn't spend any money. Not if she had her way. Must be nice to just think anyone could just get 20. And she did, like, was it her or someone else who goes, well, if you have 20 volunteers who give 10 hours each, my word, woman, are you smoking crack? I know you're against weed, but are you smoking crack? Like, literally, are you? Where you just think, oh, each of those libertarians, they could just get 20 volunteers to give 10 hours each. Okay, Marie Antoinette. That was the let them eat cake moment. My fucking word. What arrogant, privileged gall. Every single person that votes for a third-party candidate, Libertarian, whoever it might be. Obviously, I'm advocating for the Libertarians, but there's a lot of third parties in Colorado. Wants that opportunity that you are attempting through shady and deceitful rhetoric to take away from them. And you ought to be utterly ashamed of yourself. Your own party didn't back you. Save your intra-party feuds for yourselves. Don't be trying to screw over other people to paper over your machinations. Colorado deserves much better than that conversation. Okay, y'all. I finished my wine. Now I'm starting on my soda. I'm the pinnacle of health. So, now it's kind of just like open chat. I would be, as I do, if anyone has any questions or comments, I leave it open for a little bit. And then I am going to take off. But if Miss Kirkmeyer did not like me earlier today, I bet once, not that this show gets a great many viewers, but if her aides are on top of things and they have Google alerts set for her name, she's going to like me even less after this show. Don't go screwing with other people's lives like that. You know how many libertarian activists have given countless hours to keep this party alive? And you, because you think you're some kind of ruler over other people that know what's best, you're gonna just take it away. Who gave you that right? And then you claim it's for the people. So disgusting. So utterly disgusting. Keep minor parties out of it, Barbara. Okay, some questions. To be honest with you, Casey, I don't know very much about the toxic train crash. We do, Nathan. Colorado does have a citizen initiative process. They made it a lot harder. It's very difficult to go now. You need a lot of money. So Daddy Big Bucks, who's all for this, because, suppression of minor party voices, is Daddy Big Bucks, and we'll probably get it on. as a citizen initiative. And I hope they screw it up in some way so we can sue the fuck out of them. As you can tell, I have no patience for this Game of Thrones bullshit and these people with these types of games. But I guess that will be it. I am going to actually go get packed because I don't want to count on having to do that tomorrow. I hope you all have an awesome night. I do thank you all for the super chats. I super appreciate it. And I did like getting this all off my chest. I'm sure I did not cover every single point I could have done in refuting Barbara Kirkmeyer and her awful bill. But I just did want to show how her arguments were false on just a cursory examination when it comes to minor parties. That all it would do is increase the burden with no different end result except less libertarians on the ballot. All right, y'all. I hope you have an awesome evening. Bye-bye.
What you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to